Get NFL Sunday Ticket at its lowest price ever and watch every game every Sunday. Take your NFL experience to even greater heights with NFL Sunday Ticket Deluxe, which gives you Red Zone, bringing you the final yards from around the league along with minute-to-minute NFL fantasy updates. Call us at 601-8992 to sign up today.
Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into MB12 Weekend, broadcasting from Kibble 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, more details on the government's new crime-fighting strategy. The president of the Bahamas Christian Council says what he believes will stem crime once and for all. How you can protect your pets from a possible deadly run-in with the cane toad. Plus a special surprise for an MB12 reporter who gets asked the big question. We've got those stories and so much more coming up. I'm Paige McCartney, and MB12 Weekend starts right now. Welcome once again to MB12 Weekend. With the Ministry of National Security's new crime plan now in effect, many are wondering what other elements of the criminal justice system are going to be shifted to make the plan more effective. For example, the role of the courts and other programs highly touted by the Christie administration will play in bringing down crime. Police are also wondering if the plan will be the latest in a long list of police initiatives that have been accompanied by a lot of fanfare but have produced questionable results. Juan McCartney takes a look.
Much like the former Ingram administration, which oversaw record-shattering crime during its last term in office, the current Christie administration has thrown pretty much everything it can at the country's crime problem. Yet, very little has changed, despite the PLP being the party that promised to make the streets safer from day one. Well, with the recent spike in murders and violent attacks, how much safer the streets are is up for debate. However, Minister of National Security Dr. Bernard Nottage is hoping his recent crime strategy announcement, along with some other things that we weren't able to tell you about yesterday, will make the streets safer in the shortest possible time.
Saturation patrols, additional vehicles, urban renewal 2.0, school policing, bringing back retired officers, the establishment of the Royal Bahamas Police Force Selective Enforcement Unit, the establishment of the National Intelligence Agency, and other initiatives were all rolled out since May. And though police records indicate crime has dropped slightly since then, 12 murders and a spate of violence, rapes, and robberies in the last few weeks were enough to prompt the announcement of another strategy, putting police on 12-hour shifts and letting Royal Bahamas Defense Force officers do sedentary work while police officers hit the streets. While it's unclear exactly how making the current complement of officers work longer hours will reduce crime or how the government plans to compensate those officers, the National Security Minister says he does expect street-level crime to be reduced shortly. He also said the government is considering a gun amnesty, similar to the one back in 2011, and also a possible gun buyback program.
We've had little attempts at gun amnesties in the past. I think apart from the amnesties, there's another program called gun buyback, where it may be of value to that is another option that we are considering, and I am expecting that we'll have a decision on that in the not too distant future.
As far as catching criminals goes, Nottage noted it doesn't do much good if the courts turn them right back out onto the streets because the government fails to try them in a time that judges deem reasonable. Well, Nottage said another part of the strategy, increasing the number of criminal courts from 6 to 10 and putting public defenders in place, is coming soon.
It is the intention that we can get the public defenders appointed by the end of this month, and we can get the additional courts in that time. And if we are able to do that, we expect the trickle-down effect to be immediate.
As we pointed out, urban renewal and school policing are major programs that the PLP reintroduced. The former administration argued that those programs were a waste of police resources, but Nottage says they've yielded tangible results since they were brought back, and they won't be put on hold, as was the police force pop band program, just to accommodate the new plan.
I sat down yesterday, for example, with Inspector Roll from the Baintown Urban Renewal Office and Ms. Inspector Richardson from the Centerville, I guess, Farm Road, and they were able to give me significant information. These are men who are doing a first-class job in terms of developing relationships with the communities. People give them information, they're able to find guns for us, they're able to forestall some battles, and as I told you last night, Inspector Roll was with me shoulder to shoulder in Bain and Grantstown, just trying to see what we could do to keep the peace.
Meantime, the police are asking the public for help in closing numerous murder cases. They want to question 9 men in connection with open investigations. Those men are Samiko Rigby, Jermaine Scott, Gibson Baptiste, Lavard Poitier, Kevin Roll, Jamal Wallace, Andre Thompson, Leo Bethel, and Cornelius Roberts. If you know these men, Nottage says you should tell them to turn themselves in.
If they are not guilty, then they will be released after the normal judicial process. If they are guilty, it would be better for them to turn themselves in than for them to have to be hunted down.
The strategy that went into effect yesterday should increase police on the front lines by about 350 officers, according to Nottage. Reporting for MB12, I'm Juan McCartney.
Well, the National Security Minister's announcement yesterday that police officers will be pulled from desk duties and other civilian-type tasks so that more of them are on the front line is being welcomed by Bahamas Christian Council President Reverend Dr. Ranford Patterson, who said enforcement of the current laws is all that's needed to stem the nation's crime problem. He added that there is no need for new crime-fighting policies.
I don't know if there's a need for any more policies. I think there's only need for enforcement. I think we have enough rules, laws on our books, but we keep making rules and there's no one to enforce them.
Patterson said the police force must put the fear of the law back into the minds of Bahamians. He said the police should be stationed on every corner of the island until the crime menace is reduced, so that criminals and even average Bahamians who break small infractions of the law have the feeling that they're always being watched.
Make Bahamians responsible for every infraction that takes place in this country. I believe then all these major stuff will begin to dissipate. But until we start sweating the small stuff in this country, nothing's going to happen. I drive up and down the street and I see drivers with babies in their hands. You know, I see people still not wearing their seatbelts. I see people still running the red light, making a third lane in our Bahamas. I see people throwing trash out the window. There's no consequences. People believe that there's no consequences for the wrong that they do, and so they continue to do it. Nobody's afraid of the law anymore.
The Christian Council president added that government must take the politics out of the crime fight and have conversations with all community leaders.
It's not going to happen when one person is talking, the other person is talking, but nobody's coming together to make a difference. I think it's time for all of us to come together and let the public included, let the world know that we do not support what's going on in our Bahamas. It has nothing to do. Some people believe unless it happens to me, it's not in my neighborhood, so it doesn't affect me. It affects all of us.
Well, after dominating news headlines for weeks, the controversy surrounding the alleged abuse of Cuban detainees at the Carmichael Road Detention Center has taken a backseat to the recent spate of murders. However, we could learn more about what transpired at the detention facility next week. When asked if the Ministry of National Security intends to release a report detailing investigations into the alleged abuse of Cuban detainees, Nottage said this.
We are going to be making an announcement early next week, which will fully inform you of the bits and pieces that you are in pursuit of.
According to a leaked report, Cuban detainees were severely beaten at the Carmichael Road Detention Center for almost 2 hours after they attempted to escape in May, and one even appeared to have temporarily lost consciousness as a result of the abuse. Witness statements from the guards and detainees are contained in the closely guarded report of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force dated July 19, 2013. While those poisonous cane toads that we showed you yesterday that are reproducing rapidly can be deadly for your four-legged pets, as we've mentioned, cane toads are dangerous amphibians. They are a common cause of poisoning in dogs, and less commonly, they poison cats. They exude a milky white toxin, mostly from poison glands behind their eyes, but elsewhere on their body as well. They squeeze this poison onto the surface of their skin when they are under threat. When threatened roughly, they can even squirt the poison up to 6 feet. Dogs and cats are poisoned when they mouth the toad, or sometimes when the toad's poison gets into their eyes. The toad's poison is also dangerous to humans, and with some adults having even been affected when they absorb the poison through cuts into their skin after handling a toad. Veterinarian consultant for the Ministry of Environment, Dr. Godfrey Springer, said Bahamians should follow these guidelines if they or their pets ever encounter the toads.
If you would be in contact, of course, the similar step we would use in the animal. In humans, you want to make sure at least you get the chemical off of your skin or face. If you have on such clothes, you may want to get rid of those clothes and seek fresh clothing. But most of all, I think you ought not to do too much of running to ensure that your blood does not rise to get the chemical through your body system. So I think it's important that you dose yourself with some degree of water, a hose, so that you can at least get it out of your system. And avoid putting your hands in your mouth to make sure it does not spread the chemical into your mouth.
And here are some tips on how you can protect your furry friends from the poisonous toads. Keep your dog inside after dark. Only allow your dog outside on a leash, and also use that on-leash time to teach your dog not to attack toads using reward-based training. But if this doesn't work, Springer said the local veterinarian network has been briefed on how to deal with toad poisoning in pets.
You need to ensure persons see their private practitioners to get more information on the effects of the king toad and treatment for such persons. Veterinarians, are there to help you with your pets in case something should happen.